In the past, in this story that you're telling, how old were you?
When I decided to publish this series of books,
Yes.
I was 23.
So you always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Now,
Yeah.
as a young kid, did you make up kid rhymes?
Batman, Superman had a fight. Batman hit him with some kryptonite. Kryptonite must have shocked his brain because now he thinks he's Lois Lane.
When I was working at Sports Illustrated for Kids, so that was my last job before I did the author thing full time.
Right.
And I used to do flash animation for the websites. Let's wait to see what Hallmark does. And if Hallmark ever does humorous Black greeting cards, then we'll give you a call. And the ones for us was always like, oh, you graduating high school, praise Jesus. I never expected to be where we are winning the Newbery and the Coretta Scott King Award, but let someone in Texas want to ban me,
Right.
and then all of a sudden NPR is calling the BBC from England. Why couldn't you celebrate my joy?
The biggest thing that happened for my career was we sold the book to Disney to make a TV show. I don't think she said it like this, but can you make it more Black?
Right.
Can you add graffiti to the story?
Okay.
Can you do that? Maybe one of the boys has a drug problem.
Dude, it's Hollywood Shuffle.
Maybe you show us how Black people love. Welcome to Baldwin Dialogues with Jerry Kraft and Kwame Alexander.
There you go.
All right, carry on.
Oh yeah. So, I thought back to they talk about behind every overnight success is 30 years of hard work.
Right.
And I don't know of any two people that put that 30 years of hard work in more than us.
37.
Yeah. Because I self-published my first book in 1997, and it was a book of my comic strips because I got the nastiest rejection letters. And I was like, there's no way in the world I will ever get published. So I went to the library, got a book on how to self-publish, and then started doing my own books.
I knew that my poetry was amazing. Like I thought I knew.
Right.
This was 1993.
Okay.
And I got rejection letters from not just publishers, but from Black magazines, Black literary magazines, like Callaloo and the African American Review. And I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I happened to grow up in a house with a father who was a book publisher. So while I was disappointed, I had a backup plan. I had a plan B. And that was I was going to publish my own books,
right,
since no one else would. And when I was growing up, I had numerous jobs in my house. One was to cut the grass.
Mm-hmm.
Another was to take the leaves out of the gutters on the roof. And the one I enjoyed was to clean up the garage every Saturday. Our garage was the library.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where you go with that.
Yeah, there were milk crates on the walls, and in
okay.
the milk crates were books spine out.
Okay.
But on the floor was trash that somehow accumulated during the week. So instead of cleaning up the trash, I would go look at the spines of the books. And I remember finding this series of books called the First Poet series that was published by Third World Press in 1967, 68, 69, 70. And the poets were Sonia Sanchez, Amiri Baraka, and so forth and so on. And I used to read these really thin volumes. And so when I decided to publish my own poetry, Jerry, I said, I'm going to create a series of poetry books and not just publish me, but publish other poets. And I called it the Black Words Poetry Series. And it was based on the First Poet series.
So now you had two things. And you're how old?
I'm 56.
No, back then.
How old am I now or back then?
Back then. When
you got to be specific. See, you're an illustrator. You're taking pictures.
In the past, so I'm going in the past, in this story that you're telling, how old were you?
When I decided to publish this series of books?
Yes.
I was 23.
Okay, so you always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Now, as a young kid, did you make up kid rhymes? Like, were you always making up, nothing is deep,
Right, right.
You know, not haikus and stuff. I meant
Right.
it's just a regular
Well, actually, it's haiku.
haiku. Okay,
The plural of haiku is haiku.
haiku. Okay.
Yeah.
Not haiku.
Not haikus.
Not haiku. Okay, got it.
That's a good question, Jerry. Did I make up rhymes? Batman, Superman had a fight. Batman hit him with some kryptonite. The kryptonite must have shocked his brain because now he thinks he's Lois Lane. So yeah, I did. I made up. I thought I could rap.
So where was rap and hip hop at that time in your life?
This was 76, 77.
Okay.
So it was right at the beginning. This was Rapper's Delight.
So did you lose your mind?
I lost my mind.
Yeah, everybody did.
My friend, I lived in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in,
right.
Yeah. So I'm in Brooklyn and my friends got 2 Gemini turntables. So we're in the basement creating like the next big thing. And so you grew up in the Bronx.
In Washington Heights.
Washington Heights.
Right across the Hudson River so I used to be able to see Yankee Stadium from the roof of my building. And rap to me was going 4 blocks up to the Sand Park, and they used to open up the base of the street lamps to plug in their turntables.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I would just sit back and be like, wow. And then when I heard Rapper's Delight,
yep.
There was one, Rapazootie in Blue. I remember, I don't know who did that. And then like you would listen to the radio the first time that they would come on. And it was like, you know, you'd have the cassette tape and I'd be like recording them so I could listen to them.
Yeah. Grandmaster Flash, Curtis Blow, Spoonie G,
Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah. But Jerry, so we both grew up in this hip hop era. How did that music, how did those, parties, how did that influence you as an artist? Or did it? I mean, it had to.
Oh, it definitely did. Because my comic strip, Mama's Boys, was about 2 teenage boys. And they were brothers.
Okay.
So one, Yusuf, wore the throwback jersey. He had the high top fade. He had his pants sagging a little bit. And then his brother, Tyrell, was a little bit more laid back and not nearly as cool. And then as I self-published my book, I used to go around to different bookstores. And I remember going to one in Brooklyn that was Incuro Books.
Incuro Books.
Yep.
That's right.
And there were 2 young kids behind the desk. And they used to always tell me what to read because I wasn't a reader as a kid. So I'm trying to catch up on stuff. So I go in and it's like, hey man, you got to read this, A Lesson Before Dying. And they tell me about it and I would take it home and read it. So it was almost like our own personal book club.
Sure.
And one of the cats is always, he had his music that he was doing. So yeah, he wants to be a rapper. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Good luck, young fella. One of those, you feel like the Uncle Jerry, good luck. And then years later, I bumped into the other guy, Aaron, who has like a gallery in Brooklyn. And I was like, yo, what happened to that other kid? He's like, oh, you mean Talib Kweli? I was like, that's who that was?
From Black Star.
Yeah. I'm like, that's who that was?
Because his mom owned the bookstore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It wasn't first. I think after she sold it, I think he bought it and tried to get it back. But originally, he was just 9 to 5 behind the counter.
Yeah, this intersection of hip hop and literature is so prevalent. So if you saw Talib selling books at Incuro Books, my father had about 10 different jobs.
Okay.
He was a Baptist minister.
Okay.
He was a book publisher.
Okay.
He was a barber.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was a college professor. He was a writer. It just goes on and on.
Right.
But what I remember him being a book publisher primarily because when he would go sell books at trade shows, I was with him. I was selling books with him. I was the one standing behind the table selling the books.
Okay.
And so I remember at one conference, KRS-One came up to the table to buy some of our books. And my dad published books about ancient Egypt, published books about Black history, about Adam Clayton Powell, Elijah Muhammad. Black empowerment, upliftment.
Right.
So KRS-One came by and just bought books. And when I sold books, because I'm like 14 at this point, 15, my dad lets me keep 10%.
Oh, okay.
So KRS comes up and he's stacking books. He's got like 8, 9 books he's buying. And in my mind, I'm computing, ooh, I'm about to make $37.95.
Nice.
And he buys these books and we start talking because he's very culturally conscious.
Right.
Always been. Listen to his music.
Right.
And he starts buying all these books and we start talking. And before you know it, he's like, man, y'all got a publishing company. I'm writing a book. And so he and I begin to sort of make these plans for my dad's company to publish his book.
Wow.
And I'm thinking this is going to be the book that's going to blow my father's company up.
Right.
And over the course of the next 6 months, it never happened. But it was an interesting sort of,
Right.
you know, sort of meeting of, again, this hip hop and literature and what it means.
So many similar stories.
Right?
Every time you tell a story,
Uh-huh.
I have one that happened with me. Mine was with Chuck D.
Oh, what
For
happened?
Public Enemy.
Uh-huh.
I used to, when I was working at Sports Illustrated for Kids, so that was my last job before I did the author thing full time.
Right.
And I used to do flash animation for the website. So I used to build games and do these animated cartoons. And he was the keynote speaker at this Adobe, this is before Adobe, Macromedia Flash convention,
Mm-hmm.
because he was into that. And I ended up talking to him. And then we would talk about maybe doing some kind of animation or stuff together, you know. And there were so many guys out there like trying to do stuff. And like throughout my life, I had like, it was always close but no cigar. You know, I had a 40 card greeting card line
Mm-hmm.
for American Greetings that they promised me. It's like, hey man, you know, 40 cards, this Mama's Boys line. They came all the way from Chicago to meet with me. And then, you know, it goes from 40, 6 months later, 20,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to do 10, then they're going to experiment and just put it in Gibson Greetings. And then now it's 3 years later and they're like, well, you know what? Let's wait to see what Hallmark does. And if Hallmark ever does humorous Black greeting cards, then we'll give you a call. Because I always saw like the ones that weren't geared towards us,
Mm-hmm.
they were funny. And the ones for us was always like, oh, you graduating high school, praise Jesus.
You made it.
You made it, you know,
Right.
or I love you, Mom. You know, you're my, but there was, you know, I always wanted to do funny stuff,
Right.
you know? And it was always interesting because they never thought that kids like us were funny. Like I felt always wanted serious stuff, but there was always a great Black comedian
Mm-hmm.
at the forefront of everything.
Mm.
You know, it went from Richard Pryor to Eddie Murphy, you know, to Chris Rock, to Dave Chappelle, to Kevin Hart, you know, Josh Johnson. But the literature and stuff and a lot of movies never really had funny kids,
Mm.
you know, but they had to be funny kids to become funny adults. So I always wanted to push funny greeting cards, funny books, funny cartoons, like that kind of stuff, and get more of that out there.
Yeah. So this idea of humor and funny, I think it's one of the things that it's helped Black people not only survive, but thrive.
Right.
It's sort of one of the ways that we got over.
Right.
And I remember growing up and reading Langston Hughes, who was arguably the most serious commentator on Black life in America and in the world, and at the same time, the funniest.
Right.
Folks, birthing is hard and dying is mean. So why not get yourself a little loving in between?
Right.
Right?
Uh-huh.
He could talk about these really weighty and heavy things in just a few lines and make it hilarious and hit you. And I think the idea was, you know, it's like that old Negro spiritual, laughing to keep from crying.
Right.
the laugh. So the laughing and the humor has been a part of our literature, but it's been sort of pushed to the back. But I grew up, reading the poetry of Sonia Sanchez and Langston Hughes and Nikki Giovanni and Hakeem Adabudi, and they were hilarious and serious at the same time. And so I think even when I write, when I write books for children, I try to remember that, and that humor tries to come out.
So what's funny when you talk about funny and serious at the same time, though?
Mm-hmm.
That was always my thing because, like, remember Ebony magazine?
Mm-hmm.
And they always had Strictly for Laughs.
Why are you talking about jet centerfolds? What does that have to do with this conversation?
Yeah. Jet centerfold.
Jet centerfold. Wasn't nothing funny about that?
No. So I actually would see the Ebony cartoons, but they didn't mean anything.
Why?
It was just a laugh. It was just, and I always remembered.
You mean it wasn't a story?
No, it didn't represent anything. It was like, my wife can't cook, my wife can't drive, the husband is sleeping on the couch, the same kind of thing over and over.
Okay.
So we grew up in the era of Schoolhouse Rocks,
right?
Multiplication.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm just a bill,
right?
A regular
We
bill.
Still remember conjunction, junction. What's your function?
Right.
Even Fat Albert had a lesson, electric company, Sesame Street. So Mr. Rogers,
mm-hmm.
right? So there was always a teaching thing.
Right.
So I always had a hard time separating entertainment from education.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's that, edutainment.
Right.
So when I started doing my Mama's Boys comic strip, one day I got an email that I had subscribed to. It's like Black on Black Communications or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent something saying that diabetes was running rampant in the African American and Latino community.
Mm-hmm.
So I called them up. I said, I called up the African American, like diabetes, like they had their own foundation.
Sure.
Right. But they had an African American segment to it. And I called them up. I said, hey, how would you like to use my characters as your official spokesperson? And they were like, oh, yeah. So I went in for a meeting. Dr. Gerald Dees was there. Remember him? He was fixing his own thing.
Right.
And I looked at all their literature. And again, sad Black people on the thing, you getting too much sugar, you're going to lose your toe.
Right.
You're going to do this, you're going to go blind.
Right.
And like, nobody's going to pick that up.
Mm.
Because whether you think you got it or not, you don't want to confirm it. Right. So I said, let me use my characters to talk about the fundraising walk, to talk about cutting down on this, healthy eating. And then I ended up like in my Mama's Boys comic strip, there was no dad, but I never explained where he was.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew I didn't want to do the Black sitcom kind of thing where, oh, dad went out for a smoke 20 years ago and we haven't seen him since.
James Evans.
Right.
Anybody.
Right, exactly.
Damn.
Right. And actually, James is the only one that stayed.
Right.
All the other ones.
Right.
So thank you, James Evans. So
what's happening? They never had a dad on there.
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, George Jefferson was on the Jeffersons.
Yep. But all the younger ones,
right.
Dads up, no dad. And so I said the dad passed away due to complications from diabetes.
Oh, okay.
So that's why mom is really on the boys to cook healthy.
Got it.
So I did the diabetes things for years. I go to things with the Clark sisters.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to, hammer it in. And then people started seeing that. And then the Daily News called me up one day, the New York Daily News, and said, hey, we are doing a special AIDS supplement. We want you to do some special Mama's Boys comic strips for that.
Okay.
I'm like, I can't do comic strips for AIDS.
Right.
What are you talking about? And like, yeah, we think you can.
Because you didn't think you could make any light of it or humor. Or
yeah.
fun. Okay.
And I was afraid to mix those two.
Sure.
And then I did it and they loved it. So they would do the aid supplement like quarterly, and I would have something in there. And then from there, it was like people started coming out the woodworks. I did stuff on teenage pregnancy. I worked with the American Council of Fitness and Nutrition. I did Mama's Boys comic strips on organ and tissue donation.
Wow.
You know, I did a whole comic book on leukemia. So I've always, that would end up being my niche, is taking these really serious things and making it light.
And I would posit, Jerry, that, yeah, you've done an amazing job at that, as evidenced by all the awards and the honors. But the truth is, it ain't new. This is how Black people have always had to have the entertainment, have the education with the entertainment.
Right.
We didn't have the luxury of not being able to learn or teach, because in many times it was life or death.
Right.
And so we had to make sure with everything,
our music,
from the time we got to this country,
the spirituals, everything.
We were always teaching, but we were doing it, to your point, in a way where it's not didactic.
Right.
You know, it's not lecture.
Right.
But I'm going to be creative, just like you were with those diabetes comics, in a way that's going to not just tell you something, but it's going to show you and make you empathetic and make you feel something. And I always say, if you want people to change the way they act, change the way they think. Right. You want to change the way they think, change the way they feel. And that's what art does. Right. It changes the way we feel.
Absolutely.
And Black people have been doing this since time immemorial.
Yeah. From coming over here to this country, to Billie Holiday, to Grandmaster Flash, to Childish Gambino.
And who illustrated that the best than the scene in Sinners?
Oh, right.
The music scene.
Yeah. Where
you see it all come together.
Yeah.
The break dance and then the blues and the African drumming. And he even had Chinese dance and music in there.
Yeah.
He had it all.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff inspires me. Like, I remember the first movie so one was Hollywood Shuffle.
Oh, Robert Townsend.
And it wasn't just what he did.
It's on Mondays. He closed us on Sundays.
Yep. And it wasn't just how he, what he did in the movie.
Right.
But that he used his credit cards. He maxed out all his credit cards.
Matched them out.
To make the movie, to fund it. So I had that part and the movie.
Right.
And then...
and of course, that comes out of the tradition of Oscar Micheaux.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Who started his own studio back at the beginning of the 20th century.
Right.
So Robert Townsend comes out of tradition. Keenan Ivory Wayans, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker.
I'm Gonna Get You Sucker.
Comes out of a tradition. Black people have been doing this, and we've been finding new ways to be creative and one-up ourselves.
The one that did it, though, The Last Dragon. Barry Goy's The Last Dragon.
Oh, with Timac?
Yeah. And because it was as close to me and my friends, like Black kids who love Bruce Lee.
Right.
Like, you never saw that. Like, you never saw a rerun and those guys talking about Bruce Lee.
A rerun wasn't doing martial arts with that dance he was doing? That wasn't martial arts?
I don't think so. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was close. And then I was like, oh, man, like what that made me feel.
Right.
And then over the course of years theatrically, like Spike Lee, like the early Spike Lee one.
Yeah, Do the Right Thing.
Just like you can't wait for it to come out.
Right.
And you go, and then you would see that Universal logo, and you'd hear his voice, and you just knew that it was like you're going to get that spiritual and emotional embrace for 2 hours.
I really think, Jerry, and we may not have ever articulated like this, but that feeling, that's what we're trying to do with our books for kids.
Absolutely.
We're trying to do that for kids. We want them to come away feeling the same way we felt when we've seen these movies or heard these songs or read these books.
Yeah.
We want them to be moved and inspired and empowered, because that's how we felt when we saw Do the Right Thing in School Days and Malcolm X.
Absolutely.
We felt empowered. We came out of that theater, just like in Sinners.
Yeah.
We came out of that theater feeling a certain kind of thing that we weren't feeling before.
Yeah. I had a kid, Latino boy, up in Boston a few years ago, and I'm signing books, and he stands really close, like uncomfortably close, and I keep signing. I'm looking up, like, you gonna say something,
Right?
And then he just whispers, "Thank you for Ramon." And Ramon is a Latino character in the New Kids series.
Secondary characters.
Right, secondary.
Right.
But it meant so much to him. And it was like, that's what I would have said to Robert Townsend or Spike Lee or something.
Right.
And I'm like, this guy said that to me. That was one of those like goosebump moments.
If you're just tuning in, we're listening to Baldwin Dialogues with Kwame Alexander and Jerry Craft. And they gave us these cards to be able to prompt us. We don't need no prompts. No, but I'm going to pick one and just ask a question randomly. Okay. You ready? What responsibilities do authors have when addressing sensitive political or social topics in their work?
Oh, that's everything we just talked about. I think that, it's weird now because having new kids, like I did it as a slice of my life.
Right.
It is a 12-year-old boy who grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood, seeing race and class for the first time.
Okay.
And I did it to be fun and funny and I never expected that there'd be videos of people in these school board meetings talking about Jerry Craft books or what is dividing this country.
Yeah, critical race theory.
Right. And I'm like, I had to Google critical race theory the first time I got accused of it.
You have to Google a lot, don't you?
I had to Google that. I'm like, CRT, what is that? So I never expected to be where we are. That, I was on Joy Reid and Don Lemon and The Daily Show, not for being a Newbery winning author. Like, I didn't get phone calls winning the Newbery and the Coretta Scott King Award, but let someone in Texas want to ban me.
Right.
And then all of a sudden NPR is calling the BBC from England. I'm like, why couldn't you celebrate my joy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember reading a quote, and I want to say it was by Etheridge Knight, who's a poet from the Black Arts Movement. And or maybe it was Sam Greenlee who wrote The Spook Who Sat by the Door. And it went something like this. They asked me why I write poems that are political. And I tell them to be Black in America is political.
Right.
And so we don't sit down and say, oh, I'm going to write a book about race and class. I mean, as children's book authors, you and I specifically. But everything we write comes through the filter of everything we live. Mm-hmm. And we've dealt with a lot, just like everybody else. And so in order to be authentic and honest with our with our readers, we got to talk about what happens.
Right.
And this is the kind of stuff that happens. Right. We're dealing with rejection.
Right.
I
hadn't even heard the term microaggressions. That was not really a thing.
You got to get out more.
Hey, not if that's what's out there. You know what I mean, though? And so it's so funny when people start to dissect your stuff. Like I remember when Get Out came out.
Mm-hmm. Scary movie.
I love that movie.
Loved it.
But Jordan Peele did a video where he addressed all the things that people thought that he put into the book.
Into the movie?
Yeah, into the movie.
Right.
And some was like, yep, I did that. And some was like, no.
Right.
So it's like when people perceive you to be a genius, which I know,
I am.
You don't experience.
Yes,
that.
I am. Thank you.
But like sometimes they give you credit for stuff that you've not even done. So I remember someone writing to me, it's like, I love it when Drew and Andy fall down and they're wrestling in New Kid and Andy puts his hands up in the air like he's mocking the Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I just drew his hands up in the air.
Right.
Like, I didn't do all that, but that's pretty brilliant. I will accept that. Thank you very much.
The same thing happened with the crossover. There's a scene where Josh and his dad are on their way to the basketball game, and he gets pulled over by the cops. And the cop comes up and he says, "I'm sorry." And the cop says, "Give me your license." And he gives him the license. And he says, "Oh, you Chuck the Man Bell. Oh, I used to watch you play. Can you sign?" And his dad signs a Krispy Kreme napkin for the cop. And they go on about their way. Somebody wrote a whole review about how this novel is about police brutality.
Wow.
And I was like, it's not. Like, that wasn't my thinking. But I understand the trauma that comes around some of these things and the way we perceive it. And I'm trying to sort of fight back against that. I'm trying to write books that are aspirational and books that allow us to be able to see ourselves in a more humanistic way. And we are not defined by these things that happen to us, by trauma. Right. We define ourselves for ourselves. And that's important to me.
Yep. All right. So 2015.
Yeah.
You get a phone call. I'm assuming it's early in the morning.
Yeah, it's at 7:16.
Yep. What did it tell you?
And I won the Newbery Medal.
Right.
And it was life-changing. And a lot of things that happened after that I was not expecting, like the TV show.
Right. So the Newbery, if you don't know, it's been around
1922.
1922 is like the Oscars of children's books.
Right.
You won in 2014. You were the fourth African-American author to win.
Right.
Only the second male African-American author to win.
Mildred Taylor, Virginia Hamilton, Christopher Paul Curtis, and myself.
Right.
And then I think the next time a Black person won, they just gave it to him. It wasn't really earned.
So if you hear the insult, you know it was me. So that was me in 2020.
Yeah.
And what did that mean for you? Did you realize that kind of makes you a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I thought it did. I thought this is the ticket. This is I've reached the top of the mountain. I'm in the promised land now. And so everything is going to be gravy. For a minute, you forget that you're Black in America in some ways. Mm-hmm. And I remember, the biggest thing that happened for my career was we sold the book to Disney to make a TV show. And so we're making the TV show. We're shooting it here in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And it's during the summer and it's oppressively hot.
Right.
And one of the executives takes me out to dinner. And we're talking about the show. And she says, "Can you make the show more..." You know where this is going, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think she said it like this, but can you make it more Black?
Right.
And so she says, can you
Kill the dad.
Can you add graffiti to the story?
Okay. So now Josh is tagging the
Can you do that? Can you amp up the conflict? Can you bring in maybe one of the boys has a drug problem?
Wow. Dude, it's Hollywood Shuffle.
It's literally Hollywood Shuffle. And then the thing, the catcher was,
they killed it.
She says, "Kwame, can you maybe it's the mom and dad, maybe you show us how Black people love."
Wow.
Now, I'm not judging. I get it. You can't know what you don't know. And people, in particular, non-Black people, have been influenced by all of the media and how it has, talked about, showed, explained, depicted Black people throughout the years, and that's how they grow up. Right. And if you're not reading books by Toni Morrison, if you're not reading books by Alice Walker, if you're not reading books by Jacqueline Woodson, then your imagination is very limited.
Right.
So I just, I pushed back on all of that, but I just found it really, disappointing, and potentially it could have been humiliating if I wasn't the person who I was.
Right. So imagine all the people that don't think they can push back, and they start out with this amazingly original idea, and then all of a sudden it's like, can you wiggle your butt when you walk?
Right.
And can you
shuck and jive?
Right. Right.
And
you got to coordinate.
Yeah. Black people, so often we are just so happy to be in the room, Jerry. that we allow ourselves to be defined by other people. And when you got kids' tuition to pay for, when you got mortgage, when you got a car, it's very difficult to push back when you need that paycheck. I get it.
Now, did you ever get it the other way? Did you ever get it from Black readers saying that it wasn't Black enough?
Nah, I didn't. I never got that because I'm pretty Black, Jerry.
I had a woman on Goodreads, Black woman, and she was like, and again, I didn't want to do trauma. I didn't want Jordan, who's 12, predominantly white, private school. I didn't want him pushed in lockers. I didn't want them spraying names on his locker. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do kind of mundane kind of things that happen on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Like when they talk about death by 1,000 paper cuts, I went like that as opposed to just a mallet on your head.
Sure.
And so all these people on Goodreads, 5 stars, 5, 5, 5, and we love it and slice of life. And this one Black woman was like, yeah, well, I went to private school and it was a lot worse than that. Or he has it where they call the Black kids by the wrong names. That ain't realistic. So I wrote to her. I'm like, hey, sister, I'm really sorry that, but this is my experience, the experience of my kids. I'm sorry you had such a traumatic thing, but I did not want to put that in the book. Think, let's skip the olive branch. And then she writes back, sure is tacky when you criticize an author's book and he come back at you talking, and I'm like, oh man. And that's why on Goodreads now, if you're an author and you go to reply, it says, are you sure you want to reply?
Right.
And like, yeah. And then you click left. Are you really sure?
Really sure? Yeah.
You sure you want to do this? But now the opposite, when School Trip came out, there was a white teacher that goes on Goodreads because I'm addicted. I read all my reviews. I know I shouldn't. And she says, I'm not sure that my largely poor, largely African-American kids are going to be able to relate to these kids who go to Paris for a week. Therefore, I refuse to bring this book into my classroom. I'm like, so you don't want to give them any aspirations that they could travel? Meanwhile, white kids are reading about how single-handedly they can overthrow an evil dystopian future. Or my kids can't go to private school, but their white counterparts can go to wizard school and fly on brooms and magic and all that stuff.
It's so true.
And I'm like, whew,
yeah.
I don't think you need to teach our Black boys, ma'am.
Yeah.
All
right, let's go question number 2, Jerry.
All right.
Jerry, what practical strategies do you recommend for individuals seeking to nurture resilience in themselves and support it within their broader community amidst ongoing adversity? So the way I translate that question is, how do you convince people to say yes?
Right. With me, sometimes you gotta make your own way. Because even so, when you talk about Sam Greenlee, right? Spooker Sat by the Door.
Right.
I love his interviews where he went to get a permit to film on the subway in Chicago. And they were like, no, it costs too much money.
Right. So
him and his friends would like get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, run on the train, film it, and then get back off the train.
Right.
And sometimes, you have to, if you know it's a good idea, you got to do what you have to do. I went to the library, got a book on how to self-publish, taught me how to self-publish. There are Black librarians to talk, like specifically for what we do, Black bookstores like Baldwin and Company, right? And, I remember I met you because you used to put on your own book festivals. So I guess if no one's inviting you, you do it yourself.
Right.
And I think you can't be resilient if you surround yourself with people who are pushing you down.
Preach on it.
Because there's this thing, and I haven't said it in years, so give me some leeway if it's messed up. But if your circle of friends do not encourage you to be better. It's not a circle. It's a prison.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh, okay. Okay.
So, I knew self-publishing. Sometimes I'd be like, hey, look at my new book. And they just say, oh, thank you. And I'm like, hey, that's $10. Like, I can't give to everyone.
Right.
Right. You got people that, are baking cakes and they're like, how much for a slice? $4. It's like, I'm your sorority sister. You can't give me $4 for a slice of cake. But you'll go to Starbucks and get a scone for $6.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So you have to find your tribe of where you can feel safe and be safe and get that support. Because if it's not there and you always got people undercutting you when you're not in the room, it's going to be 10 times as hard.
Yeah. I liken it to, I'll use a sports metaphor.
Hold on.
This idea of how to nurture and train resilience in a person. When I was 3, we lived on 112th and Morningside. And my parents were in graduate school at Columbia University.
Okay.
And so my father used to take me to the playground to shoot baskets. Because my father was a basketball star in college in the Air Force. And so that was our bonding time to go shoot baskets. So I'm at the free throw line. The ball is bigger than me. And he's like, Kwame, shoot it. I'm not coming anywhere close to the basket. He keeps giving it to me. I keep shooting it. I keep shooting it. And the playground supervisor comes over with his big old screwdriver or wrench because he's going to lower the goal. He says, I'm going to lower the goal for your son. And my dad says, no.
Where this is going.
Right?
I met your dad. I already know where this is
going.
Where this is going.
Yeah. My dad says, no. No one lowers my son's goal. He doesn't know he can't make it. And I think when you're trying to teach resilience, it's about continuing to do something. Because if you stop doing it, which is the antithesis of resilience, if you stop waiting, if you stop working, if you stop shooting, you're never going to make it.
Right. So here we are. And I know we got to wrap up, but here we are. So you're Newbery winner, Emmy winner, Coretta Scott King Honor Award, NAACP.
You can stop at so many awards. But you got a Newbery.
Amazing.
You're a Kirkus Prize winner. You're a Coretta Scott King Author Award. I mean, the awards have kept continuing to come. And it's just, we got to say first, Jerry, it's a blessing.
Absolutely. So the fact that instead of going at each other, we decide to collaborate on this book. I mean, because when you think historically, right, what if Michael Jackson and Prince had done an album, or Biggie and Tupac, or some of these people? You know what I mean? Like, as a fan, I see things that I wish my favorite ball players would play together, or my favorite this or that.
Right.
So I wanted to give our fans something to see where we're not going at each other. We're going for each other. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, you're the one I want to write this book with.
Well, I'm just, truly, in all sincerity, I'm honored that you had the opportunity to write this book with me. I hope this helps make your career even better than it is.
Okay, that's a good point to end.
Yep.
All right, dude. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Cheers.